Reports today are linking West Ham to Manchester City's centre-back and England's under-21 winning captain, Taylor Harwood-Bellis, and this is a dangerous transfer rumour as far as I'm concerned. When the transfer window comes round, whether it be the summer one or the winter one, and all the rumours come flooding in, I take them for what they are. Transfer rumours, speculation, it's probably made up. And even the ones that aren't made up, they'll probably lead to nothing. So West Ham are interested in this player. We might very well be. But chances are we're not going to sign them. In the winter windows, we sign one player usually. We're linked to about 50. It's probably not going to happen. So I take all transfer rumours, well, I take most transfer rumours with a pinch of salt. I try and apply my own logic to work out whether I believe it or not. I would explain in these videos as you guys do in the comments. But I take it with a pinch of salt. Now, obviously, we've got our journalists per club that we trust a little bit more than others. I've got my own top-tier sources when it comes to West Ham that I'll believe over the rest of them. But generally, by and large, I dismiss most transfer rumours. But do you know what? I quite enjoy silly season. I quite like scoffing at the ridiculous ones. But I also quite like the hypothetical discussion when it comes to West Ham. So, for example, Harvey Barnes is the great example here. In the last week, I've enjoyed speaking to my friends about whether Harvey Barnes would work at West Ham, whether he'd work under David Moyes. Do we need him? Should we be paying 35 million for him? James Ward-Prowse, a couple of weeks ago at 40 million, might have said no thank you, but now the rumoured offer from West Ham is going to be in the region of 20 million. So hypothetically, would that change our stance? Would we be interested in Ward-Prowse for 20 million? Now, it doesn't mean that we believe the rumours, it just triggers that discussion point. Anyway, I quite enjoy it. But as a result of the transfer rumours, you start to get a little bit emotionally invested in some of them. You start to want some of them to happen. There is some that I'd quite like to see at West Ham, but if it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. Kirkes, the AZ Alkmaar left back, is probably the best example of this window for me. Would like to see him at West Ham. I think from what I've seen very, very briefly against us, he looked quite good. He's got a lot of hype. He's a good age. A succession plan for Aaron Cresswell wouldn't be a bad thing. Wouldn't break the bank. Yeah, I'd like to see him at West Ham. However, due to only seeing him play once, I'm not that emotionally invested. So if he doesn't join us, I'm not that bothered. I'm not expecting us to sign him. You've got the next layer on top of that, which is the players you would like to see at West Ham. Harvey Barnes. I would like to see him. I hope he comes. If he doesn't, I'll be a little bit gutted. Well, I'll say that. I probably won't be. But I'll be a bit, that would have been a good one. It feels like one that got away. But I'll move on pretty quick. The opposite end of the scale, you've got the ones that you believe that you perhaps don't want to sign. Polina, for example, at 50 million. You've got the ones that you've never heard of. Luis Felipe actually is a perfect example. I've had to check his name. I've never heard of him. We're strongly linked to him over the last couple of days. The real better centre-back. Apparently we're putting in our bids for around 20 million. We're going to try and sign him. Luis Felipe, I'm going to have to keep checking. It could be the other way around though. It could be Felipe Louis, couldn't it? It could be him, but it's not. Luis Felipe. But as a result, because I've never heard of him, it's difficult. I've got no opinion. I don't know if I want to see him at West Ham. I've never seen him play. So therefore, if we don't sign him, I'll struggle to really care, to be honest with you. The only reason I want to sign him at this point is because Moyes and Steidin, one or both, want him. That's the only reason I would like to see him, is because if we've identified him as one of our prominent targets, then I hope we go get him for their sake, not really for me as a fan. I would be happy if we got him. I'd look forward to seeing him play. But that's it. It's difficult to get emotionally invested. But Taylor Harwood-Bellis. Now that's someone, that's a transfer rumour I can get a little bit too emotionally invested, because now and again, just now and again, I see a transfer rumour, I think, I pray that this is true. It ticks all the boxes, whether it comes to the player profile, whether it comes to the potential. The position is obviously key. Like I said, goalkeeper, if we're linked to a goalkeeper this summer transfer window, I'm not believing it. Now obviously I'm talking first team level, Dean Henderson, and we got linked to Dean Henderson, for example. I'm dismissing it straight away. We don't need a goalkeeper. We'll need one next summer, but we're not going to buy one now. So bin that rumour straight away. Anyway, so position wise, Harwood-Bellis is ticking a lot of the boxes here. So when I seen this rumour today on the One Football app, we'll get onto that in a second, I thought, now please, can this be true? Because I feel like I'm a bit of a broken record now with the whole centre-back thing. But in terms of the profile of a player, I think he fits exactly what we need to sign for that centre-back position. Now, obviously, this would contradict the other rumour with our Luis Felipe. Let's just call him Felipe. I don't think we'd be signing both. It might be one or the other. It might be we're only interested in one. The other one's a bit of a smokescreen. I don't know. But I hope the one we're after is Harwood-Bellis. Now, this video is sponsored by the OneFootball app. You may have guessed that a few seconds ago, but genuinely, this is how I've seen the rumour. So when you download the app, which you can do via the link in description below or the QR code that's on your screen, and it's completely free. It's completely free, so get it downloaded and give it a go. But once you download it, it'll say, excuse me, who would you like to follow? What would you like to follow? So for myself, I follow West Ham, I follow Scotland, and I follow the Premier League. That's the three things I follow. My club, my country, and my favourite competition. And then I get notifications through to my phone with all the big news or the big rumours. So I get the West Ham ones through. So last night we got the one through about the friendly. Today we've got one through saying that West Ham and Fulham are interested in the under-21 Lions star. I think the notification says. So when I clicked on it, it took me to the article which told me that West Ham are interested in Taylor Harwood-Bellis. And it gave me the article which has been doing the rounds this morning on various different platforms. The Daily Mail, for example, caught offsider sub-reporting off the back of it. But the OneFootball app is the best place to go for all your latest news on your club. Doesn't matter if you support West Ham or not, get involved. Links in description, completely free. Give it a go. Don't like it, you can always delete it, but I feel confident if you give it a go, you'll keep it around. We worked with OneFootball years ago for the very first, years and years ago, and we use it daily. Anyone that watches our videos every single day on both channels will hear me and Gonzo reference the OneFootball app when they're not sponsoring us, because we still use it every single day. Get downloaded. Anyway, back to Taylor Harwood-Bellis. So, I don't know where to start. Go back to the start. Well, obviously recently England under-21s has won that competition. He was the captain, didn't concede a goal, made it into the team of this tournament, which is unsurprising given they didn't concede a goal and he's the skipper for England. But some big performances in there. I only caught brief moments of it, so I can't say I watched the whole tournament. I barely watched any of it. So I'm not going to judge him on that, because I also don't like judging players on tournaments like that. I think the environment is completely different to a domestic campaign for the start. But he's had a good spell. He's had a good summer. But I'm going to go back a couple of seasons now. We'll do the Burnley one, but going back to Stoke. Now, I obviously know a few Stoke fans, so I was speaking to Jake today about him when he was on loan at Stoke. So I was like, hey, what did you think of him, kind of thing. Now, the good thing with the Stoke fans, they've actually got quite a lot of evidence to compare him to. So he went on loan there, but obviously they've had Collins, who recently went to Burnley and then to Wolves, and now he's gone to Brentford. They've had Harry Suter there, who's just gone to Leicester for 25 million in January. We were after Suter for a long time. So they've actually had experience of some really good centre-backs. Got back a bit now, they're Kurt Zouma for a season as well. So they have seen some good centre-backs over the years there. So I was interested in how Harwood-Bellis got on there. And the conclusion was, you could tell he was going to be a top player. You could tell he's come from Man City. His distribution was almost too good for Stoke City. Couldn't really take advantage of how good he was in possession, let's put it that way. Decent enough pace, but he was a bit physically not quite ready, I think, was the conclusion of his time at Stoke City. But you could see he had potential. So while Suter and Collins had better ability when they left Stoke, Harwood-Bellis had the greater potential. Hopefully that makes sense. That's how it got summed up to me. His season at Burnley, though. Now, I've seen bits of him, and I spoke to Jake about him at Burnley as well to get his thoughts. Because, sports a championship team. Probably watches championship football more than I do. And his theory was he's turned into a man now. In the last year, he feels like Taylor Bellis has gone from boy to man. He's improved a lot under Vincent Kompany. As you'd expect, you've got one of the best centre-backs Premier League's ever seen as your manager. You would expect him to learn from him. And Jake feels he's improved massively at Burnley. When I seen Burnley play, I thought he was thoroughly impressive. But it's difficult because Burnley were the best team by a mile in that league. And I think playing centre-back for the best team and then playing centre-back for an average team in the Premier League. So you're stepping up a level, but also the way you play football is changing drastically as well. Now, I'm sure Burnley will still try and play possession-based football in the Premier League, but we're not talking about him joining Burnley. We're talking about him potentially joining West Ham. So could he fit what we're looking for? And I think he could. I really, really do. Obviously, we're going to have competition from other clubs. Fulham is the one linked, but Burnley is the one I'd worry most about, because you'd imagine they are got a bit of a lead in the race. He knows if he goes to Turf Moor, he will play. He knows Company trusts him. Company knows the player. So you'd imagine that move would make sense. Also, he would be able to stay up northwest. It would make sense for him to go to Burnley. But West Ham are being linked with him, and I really hope this is true, because I feel like I'm a bit of a broken record now, but I still think we really need a centre-back this summer. We've got the African nations coming up. Agüero will disappear. He could be gone for quite a few weeks. I do not want to go quite a few weeks with an ageing Ogbonna, Thilo Kehrer, and an injury-prone Kurt Zouma. I don't want to say it would be suicide, but I think it would be ridiculously silly and unnecessary to take that gamble. Now, obviously, the plan may be to get to January and then get somebody in the winter window to cover us for that period, a loan signing for 6 months or something. But I think that's risky, especially when Ogbonna needs replaced next summer. He's got his new contract for next season. He deserves it, and I think it makes sense, because if we got rid of him and signed Taylor Harwood-Bellis, I'd be thinking we still need another centre-back. We cannot go into January with Harwood-Bellis, Zouma and Kehrer. We need another centre-back there. So keeping Ogbonna on, which is probably average wages for a Premier League centre-back. We know that he's got the experience. He's got that leadership. I think with Declan going, it's important Ogbonna remained at the club. But I think it's also important West Ham start to plan for life without Ogbonna next season. So summer 2024-20. For some reason, I always think time jumped. You know, right now, summer 23, yeah, fine. Next season, 23-24, yeah, fine. But to think the season after is 24-25, it feels like more than 12 months. Anyway, maybe it's just my mentality, but I struggle to think that. But we need to plan for no Ogbonna next summer. And if we could get someone like Harwood-Bellis in now, who's got a year, essentially, as an understudy, to do what Flynn Downs has done for the last 12 months, so that when Ogbonna goes, his replacement's at the club already. We don't have African nations to worry about. We can go with Agüero, Zouma, Kehrer, Harwood-Bellis the following season, assuming this transfer works out. There you go, your centre-backs are sorted. The profile of your centre-backs are suddenly looking pretty good with Harwood-Bellis, Kehrer and Agüero. Age-wise, really good. Zouma, fine. We don't have to worry about centre-backs for a couple of years yet, which is something it feels like we're buying a centre-back every summer at the minute. But when you take a look at Harwood-Bellis, it's not just his ability, it's not just his potential, he's homegrown. Again, I don't want to go on about it all summer transfer window, but we need to be keeping an eye on the homegrown players. We don't have many. We need them for when it comes to submitting the squad registration in the Premier League, Europa League as well, but in the Premier League in particular, we need 8 of them. So when Declan goes, that's losing one. So to get Harwood-Bellis in would just make sense. He's the captain of England under-21s. He's got that leadership. 15 million is an absolute steal. It really, really is. It's a bit of a punt, but I think it's a very, very educated risk, this one. I can't see this one not working. And if it didn't, if he turned up, he barely played, he was a bit of a flop, I'm confident you'd probably be able to sell him next summer and get 10 million back, because all the championship clubs will be rubbing their hands thinking, here we go, a 22-year-old that's one of the best centre-backs in the league 12 months ago, we'll have him. So I think you'd be able to recoup most of your money. The football available at West Ham next season, having that Europa League, means there's enough time, there's enough game time available to have 5 senior centre-backs on your books as well. I think he's a good player, not a great one, not a top player, but he's got the potential to turn into one. Now, obviously, dealing with Manchester City, just like every other club, when you're going to go buy one of the youngsters, they're going to make sure they're protected. Harwood-Bellis has got a year left on his contract. It makes sense. I'd be surprised if he does not leave Man City. Man City can't really afford... I can't believe I'm going to say this. Man City can't afford for him to run down his contract. Because if he leaves on a free in a year's time, and he goes on to become a centre-back worth 30-40 million, they're going to look a little bit silly. So I think City will sell him this summer. And you will get riddled with clauses. You will not be able to buy him for 15 million, and that's that. City would probably rather give him to you for 15 with clauses than give him to you for 25 million, because they need to protect themselves. There'll be buyback clauses in there, so that if he does turn out to be a top centre-back in the Premier League, they can buy him back just like that. They know how much, they know when. It'll probably be 2 years down the line, summer 2025. And the reason I say that is I'm using Romeo Lavia as the example. So they sold him to Southampton last summer. This summer there's no clause. There's no agreed fee from Southampton this summer. But next summer there's an agreed fee of 40 million. So if City wanted him back 2 years after selling him, they get him back for 40 million. Now, I understand why a lot of people turn their nose up at this deal and say, whoa, that's a bit risky, because what happens if he goes on to become one of our main centre-backs and then City just come along and buy him? But that's the risk you take. That is the risk you run with. Plus, Harwood-Bellis might turn around and say, I don't fancy going. I'm all right at West Ham, thank you very much. You buy yourself 2 years to get him in your club and keep him in your club so that City do come knocking. He turns around and says, I don't want to go sit on your bench, thank you. I'm fine at West Ham. There will be other clauses in there, sell-on clauses, etc., etc. But City can demand what they want. They've got England's under-21s captain. They can demand what they want for him, really. They'll get a decent bit of money at 15 million, but you get a bargain. 15 million is a bargain. And even if the buyback was 40 million, hypothetically, in 2 years' time, essentially you're getting paid 25 million to have him on loan for 2 seasons. I just think this deal makes complete sense for West Ham. I pray it's true. I really, really do pray that this report that we are interested in Harwood-Bellis is true. I think it'd be a brilliant signing for us. I think it's exactly what we need. 15 million is not much money at all. Like I said, the clauses, it's not ideal. You'd rather not have them. But we're starting out this new player recruitment. Hopefully there's a new player recruitment. Hopefully we've got a new player profile we're trying to attract to West Ham United. And he fits that. 21 years of age with decent experience in the Championship, decent international experience for his age. He's come from Manchester City. He played under Vincent Kompany. He's good. For 21 years old, he's good. So this is the type of player we're going for. Great. We're at the very start of the process. You're going to have to make sacrifices. Ideally, in 3 years' time, 4 years' time, if we're buying a 21-year-old, we can say, no, you're not getting any clauses. Tell us how much money you want. We're just giving you money so that if he does hit it, if we've got this right, and he turns into a 60, 70 million pound player, we benefit from that and you do not. But I don't feel like we're in that position yet to make those demands. I don't feel that we have that much money to cut these clauses out of these contracts. We need to sort of compromise a little bit, and the compromise of dealing with Man City is by including these clauses, but you do get them at a slightly cheaper rate, and Man City don't always go back for them. Douglas Luiz, for example, when he went to Aston Villa from Man City, Pep Guardiola didn't want to lose him. Pep Guardiola was confident he was going to go on and become a Premier League player. He's a fantastic player. I think last season, he was superb under Emery. I wouldn't be surprised Man City were thinking, oh, okay, we've maybe made a mistake with that one, but they didn't go back and get Douglas Luiz. So even if he came to West Ham and performed well, there's a big difference between performing well at West Ham and being good enough to go play for Manchester City. There's a huge gulf. Huge difference. If he was playing like Kurt Zouma every week, then I'd expect him to come back. But I tell you what, if he's playing like a Gerd with the inconsistency every week, I don't think Man City would come knocking for him. They said, we need better than that. We need man and match performances every single week from our centre-backs. So he's got the potential. I think he's got the ability as well. But he's almost perfect in the sense that he's not that good that he'd walk straight into our starting 11. He would do it at Burnley, but not at West Ham. He'd be behind the pecking order. You'd have to earn your spot a little bit. But I think that's what we need. We need somebody of this age that we can come in that demands a bit of game time, but not first team football every single week. And then in a year's time, you reevaluate. Hopefully, he's performed that well. He's knocking on Kurt Zouma's door saying, get out of the team, I want your space, kind of thing. So yes, Taylor Harwood-Bellis, it's a dangerous transfer rumour because I really want it to happen. And if it doesn't happen, if it's made up, well, I'll be a bit gutted actually. So fingers crossed that this one's true and he can come to West Ham. Anyway, there's my ramblings for Tuesday. If you've enjoyed the video, please do drop a like on it, subscribe to Hammer's Chat, and download the OneFootball app. I don't think you'll regret it. Give it a go. It's free. Links in the description. Catch up with you tomorrow.